Hi guys, this is gsno.com and I'm here with the Oppo Reno4 Lite for a full review. This phone is priced at around $400 and it stands out through the fact that it has a total of 6 cameras. There are 2 at the front in the pill-shaped cutout and 4 at the back side, and of those 6, 3 of them are bokeh cameras. So this is supposed to be a mid-range phone, a lighter version of the Oppo Reno4 Pro 5G, which we actually enjoyed. Now, I'm going to talk about the design first. Since it's a pretty affordable device, it has a plastic body and also with a pretty nice way of catching the light. It has this stripe here which has polarized many people. Some of them like it, reminding them of a cyber shot camera. Some of them actually think it's weird that it cuts straight to the square camera module. Now, aside from that, this is a very light phone. It's one of these devices which makes me say it's too light for its own good. If you want measurements, it's a mere 164 grams and the thickness is only 7.4 millimeters. In spite of being made of well plastic, it's quite well built and it has a pretty ergonomic setup, so it's very easy to reach all the buttons. They're quite responsive and one-hand usage is definitely on point. Okay, so that's it as far as the design is concerned. I should also mention that the back side sometimes draws a bit of fingerprint and there will be a lot of lint in the camera area. Now on the display front, this is definitely one of the strong points of the device. It's a 6.43 inch pretty bright AMOLED screen. I'm actually tempted to lower the brightness because it's so bright. So 6.43 inch AMOLED screen with a resolution that's 2400 over 1080 pixels. It's got Gorilla Glass 3 protection, and if you want to check it out, we have this video here, and here we go. Now, as you can see, what we're dealing with here is the fact that we have quite a big chin, but the pill-shaped selfie camera cutout doesn't bother the experience one bit. Now, aside from that, I would say we have very crisp colors and very vivid colors. There are also wide view angles, actually impressively wide view angles, and the contrast was pretty solid even on a sunnier day. And the blacks are deep, typical for the AMOLED experience. The pixels have the pentile matrix pixel arrangement, and we have reached the lux meter test. We achieved 592 lux units, which is pretty solid. It actually beats some heavy hitters, like for example the OnePlus 8, iPhone 11 and Galaxy A71. It's below the LG Velvet and the Xiaomi Mi 10 Lite 5G, as well as the Oppo Reno 3 Pro 5G. Now, as I continue to fiddle around with the brightness, I will show you some of the options that we have for the screen. I'm talking about brightness, auto brightness, there's a dark mode, there's eye comfort, there's auto rotate, adaptive sleep, there's always on display, screen color temperature can be set to cool, default or warm, and OSIE visual effect, font size, flicker free comfort in low brightness, and well, that's about it. We have quite a few. Now, going further, we go to the bowels of the phone where we find the MediaTek CPU. It's the MediaTek Helio P95 processor, and we also have this app here. As you can see, it confirms it, MediaTek Helio P95, and in this case it's accompanied by, let's see, 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gigabytes of storage, plus there's also a micro SD card slot. The good news is that we have zero trace of lag. Actually didn't encounter none when playing games, when browsing, when doing updates, whatever you're doing, there's no trace of lag. You can even play Call of Duty Mobile or Dead by Daylight. They should work pretty fine. We have some benchmarks here. Didn't expect much from this MediaTek. It's no Dimensity MediaTek, but here we go. So in Antutu 8, as you can see, we're beating the Motorola One Zoom, Motorola One Action and Galaxy A51. At the same time, we score below the Galaxy A71 and the Xiaomi Mi Note 10 or the Motorola One Vision Plus. Motorola One Fusion Plus. And we go further here and we find the Geekbench 5, the multi-core subtest. This is the result we achieved. It's just above the Motorola One Macro and the Redmi Note 8T. It also beats the Xperia 10 Mark II, but scores below the Nokia 8.3 5G, Realme 6 and Galaxy A71. Perhaps one of the most relevant tests for gamers is this one here. Not very impressive results, to be frank. It beats the Galaxy A31, which is a lower placed phone, and Galaxy A41, Xperia 10 Mark II, but it's below the Galaxy A50 from last year, which was pretty modestly spec'd GPU-wise, also below Motorola One Action. So in general, the results here should be around or about the same to the Snapdragon 675, not the 765, the 675, and at best closer to the Snapdragon 730. That's it, not more nor less. We also have some tests here for the temperature. In benchmarks, we achieved as high as 38.2 degrees Celsius, so not exactly overheating, which is good news. And when it comes to games, 35.9 degrees Celsius, so also I cannot complain very much. Okay, now let's talk about the battery. Okay, so now as far as the battery is concerned, what we're getting here is a 4015 mAh unit with 30 watt charging, and on paper we're promised to reach 50% battery in 30 minutes. In real life, well, is not exactly the promised value. So let's go here and see what we achieved. First of all, we're going to check out the video playback test. It's a pretty good 14 hours and 45 minutes. It's actually the equal of the OnePlus Nord N10 5G. And I should also mention that it surpasses the Huawei P Smart 2021, the Huawei P40 Lite 5G, and the Galaxy A51. It scores below the Galaxy A50, the Redmi 9C NFC, and the Oppo A72. When it comes to continuous usage, I'm actually more impressed by this one. It's 12 hours and 40 minutes, just a bit above the Moto G5G Plus and some heavy hitters like the Huawei Mate 40 Pro. But what matters is that we beat the Huawei P40 Lite and Galaxy A51. We did score below other famous mid-rangers like the Galaxy A71, A50, or Oppo A72. The charging is a bit on the long side, definitely no fast charge here. 2 hours and 5 minutes required for a full top-up. After 30 minutes, you do not achieve the promised 50%, you achieve only 30%. After 1 hour, you're at just 58%. It's a bit underwhelming, if you ask me. Now, as far as the acoustics are concerned, here we have the audio jack, and here we have the speaker, the singular speaker of this device, and I think it's time to let the music play and enjoy some tunes. Okay, so you get the idea. I just showed you the landscape experience so you get it that we're not covering the speaker when we're gaming or watching videos. I'm actually satisfied by the experience, including the bass, which is punchy. We have pretty good high notes, and I would say that the sound gets quite loud here, and especially loud in games. I was always forced to put it at 50%. It was deafening. Okay, so with that being said, I think I should show you our results with the decibel meter test. This is the first result, which is actually underwhelming, 79.9 decibels. It's one of the lower placed phones, believe it or not. It's kind of weird that we achieved so little. It only beats older phones. It even beats iPhone XR and Moto Z Play, and it's below 300 other devices, including the Huawei P40 Lite. In gaming, it's the opposite, 105.9 decibels. It's top 5 material, the 5th placed. It beats a ton of handsets like the Galaxy A51, Huawei P40 Lite, Galaxy A31. It only is below the likes of Nokia 8, Nokia 8.1. Not half bad, especially when gaming. Not half bad. Now we have reached the promised 6 cameras. Well. Up front in this beautiful cutout, beautiful because it's small, it's a combo of 16 megapixel and 2 megapixel, the second one for the bokeh. At the back side, a weird thing, these 2 cameras at the bottom are both bokeh, both 2 megapixel shooters. Then we have the 48 megapixel shooter, the main one, and a 8 megapixel ultra-wide camera. We have AI features here. You can do full 48 megapixel capture, there's a pro mode, there's a portrait mode, night mode, ultra steady stabilization, and for this price, I'm pretty shocked to tell you that we have bokeh video capture. Now, I think it's high time we got into the gallery and saw some of the pictures I've taken. I've taken quite a few. With all the current climatic changes, it's a bit of a late fall, even at the end of November. So some of these beautiful colors should have been seen in September, but we have them right now in late November. So these are the beautiful colors I was talking about. This rusty red of trees, and especially the rusty red of trees and the yellow leaves were particularly well represented in these shots. Okay, so regular shots, of course the zoom isn't anything impressive, we're lacking a telephoto camera, but I'm blown away by the colors of the fall. Details are also not half bad, and if you think they're bad, you could actually resort to the full 48 megapixel shots and you'll be pretty impressed. Now, speaking of impressed, the ultra-wide shots are actually not that bad. Yes, they do lose quite a few details, but in the end, the colors will remain pretty solid. I tried out the zoom again. I mean, the results are visible, but not that impressive. Okay, let's see some more shots here. Okay, this is one of the best ones, the way it calibrates the light, and when it doesn't, we also have the option of using an HDR feature. Okay, several other captures, regular shot. I didn't get the whole bush here, so I had to resort to ultra wide. As you can see, it kept the colors pretty well. I basically have 4 hues of green here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and all of them are well represented, just like we saw in the picture before. So let's get to other things. Let's cover even more colorful stuff like these toys here. I love these hues, these red hues that we got here. And keep in mind we're facing the sun, so that's nice to see. The portrait photos were particularly good for objects and also for people, so that's something to take into account. And I'm actually not crying about lacking a macro camera. I did some pretty solid close-ups just with the main camera without a macro shooter, so no reason to regret or hesitate when buying this phone because of the macro camera. More bokeh shots of this dog, excellently cut from the background, and I think it's time we concerned ourselves with the selfies. Okay, as you can see, at times the bokeh caught some of the trees behind me. It was confused a bit by the mask. Then I put it aside, and there are many flaws here. I'm going to say that more details would have been nice, so that's something, but these are pictures taken in the shade, so not much light here. The focus was rather solid, the bokeh shots were nice. When we catch a bit of sunlight, you'll definitely be impressed by the results. But the level of detail is less impressive than what I've seen on, for example, the Xiaomi Mi 10 Lite or the Galaxy A51 or A71. I mean, the pictures are pretty crisp, don't get me wrong, and the bokeh separation is excellent. Nice texture of the face, but somehow I wanted more details. Okay, more colorful shots here. As an all-rounder, it's quite a solid camera, but when you hear about 3 bokeh cameras, you expect the best, and with the back one, it definitely delivers, so it's perfect separation. And the front one also delivers, but keep in mind the whole detail aspect. Okay, so we have quite a few shots. Remember that we don't have much zoom, but in general, I was very happy with the colors, and the only drawback may be that the ultra-wide camera doesn't get a lot of details. In the end, it can easily fight phones like the Xiaomi Mi 10 Lite, Huawei P40 Lite 5G, or the Moto G 5G Plus. Now let's check out the low light shots we've taken with this device, so let's take them one by one. Okay, so first thing I noticed is that we didn't catch a lot of light here, but that can be easily fixed with the night mode, which is quite effective. And then we have several more shots here. I will see that the ultra-wide camera is actually doing fine compared to what I've seen on other phones in the mid-range department. And the colors, I would say, aren't exaggerately warm or cold. The street light halos are decent in size. And if you want to fix any problems you can spot here, once again, it's the night mode that fixes everything. And as you can see, the details are sufficient for the pavement of the town. The zoom was actually better in the daytime, possibly added by the, well, street lights. And once again, we put the night mode to the test, and it reveals some areas which were not well shown in the earlier picture, as you can see here. Okay, so the biggest takeaway from the low light capture is that the ultra-wide camera finally performs on a mid-range device. We have a capable night mode, and we even get to see part of the sky here, even some planes and the moon at the top side. And let's go to another shot here where we actually encounter a strong light source, which is well handled by the camera. So quite a good performance even in low light conditions, showing that the daytime capture was not a fluke. It can easily compete with the super high mid-rangers, some of them priced, at $100 or $200 mode. The night mode is definitely the star of the show here. Okay, now it's time to check out the videos. We have quite a few of them. One would say we have too many, and let's take them one at a time. So first of all, we have this capture here where we put to test the stabilization using the ultra-wide mode. It's actually not half bad. This is actually the second stabilization test I did. The first one was with the ultra steady mode deactivated, and this one here is handled much better. I know there's quite a bit of motion, but there is no flicker and no refocusing, so there's that. Okay, if you want something more colorful, let's see, we should have that here. I try to focus more on the 4K videos because the Full HD ones were lacking in detail. I'm happy with the color calibration here, but I would say that most of the videos, when the steady mode is off, are quite shaky. A decent level of zoom, but nothing to write home about. And the exposure is, I would say, fine, even though sometimes the sky will be white in the background. And if you look at the distance, you will see that there aren't many details. This is quite a good color capture here. Of course, people are wondering what the bokeh is like, and I actually tried it out multiple times. So this is the selfie bokeh camera, the pretty good separation of planes. My face feels a bit too white for my taste, but I would say it again, for the price you're paying, this is actually quite a solid selfie bokeh. And I also tried it out with the back camera, but if it's not a human subject, it's a bit hit and miss. As you can see here, you definitely need a human subject for it to work properly. Otherwise, there's a bit of annoying flicker. Okay, and we should also have a focus test here somewhere. I've taken quite a few shots, so I'm going to have to try and find it. No, this is the stabilization one. These are some leaves I was messing about with. And this is it. The focus is quite snappy on the foreground and the background, and when you're filming up close, I noticed that the quantity of detail is quite impressive. There is a small little bug crawling on this ball, this metal ball. Okay, so this is pretty much it. I'm happy with the capture here, although I should mention that the details and the clarity are clearly better on the Galaxy A51 and A41, but the fact that you can achieve bokeh filming on a phone that's pretty cheap is the selling point. Now, when it comes to the low light capture, things are not as impressive. As you can see, there's a lot of movement and flicker when walking around, and the colors are quite decent, although some parts of the image feel a bit too purple for me. That's standard fare for mid-range phones, but in the end I would say that it was a bit above my expectation in the bokeh department, and the nighttime filming was exactly as expected. Now, if you want to talk about other things, I'm going to talk about the connectivity, and this is a 4G LTE phone. It's definitely not a 5G device. It's got Wi-Fi dual band, Wi-Fi direct. There's a Bluetooth 5.1 here available, and also GLONASS, Galileo, BDS, QZSS, and GPS, plus NFC and a USB-C 2.0 port on the bottom side. The calls were pretty loud and clear, and we did our typical speed test. So let's see what that is about. Okay, so we go here, got your typical options, and speed test we achieved on Wi-Fi up to 282 megapsecond downloads, and also up to 24.8 megapsecond uploads, and on 4G 109 over 58 megapsecond download and upload respectively. These are pretty solid results, in line with other mid-rangers I've seen. And now, if you want to talk about the software, if you've seen our review and our test of the Oppo Reno if you've seen our review of the Oppo Reno4 Pro 5G, it's exactly the same experience. This is Android 10 covered up with ColorOS 7.2. The leftmost home screen is dedicated to the Google News feed. For multitasking, we have this carousel of apps, quite a few of them, as you can see. Of course, you can also do the split screen thingy here, split screen. And aside from split screen, there is an extra layer of multitasking. You have this window here where you can trigger floating apps, which can overlap the split screen and trigger a tri-fold multitasking experience. Then, if you do this, you can access the widget zone, which are actually pretty close to stock, nothing out of the ordinary. This is a pretty minimalistic area for the notifications and quick settings with these green toggles. And then we go to the settings. And I would say there are quite a few extras compared to other phones. I'm talking about, for example, the app cloner, the game space, the split screen features, which are mentioned here with a bunch of gestures associated. Speaking of gestures, you can get rid of these buttons here and opt for swipes. Okay, so the app management, and for security, we actually have a pretty reliable combination of the selfie camera for face detection as well as the fingerprint scanner embedded in the screen. You can see its symbol here, and you can properly put your finger here and unlock the handset. Now, aside from that, let's see what else we missed. This is pretty much it. I think we've covered everything. Okay, let's see if there's anything other left to cover. As far as the pre-installed apps are concerned, you can actually have them in an app drawer, or you can opt to have them all on the screen if you prefer that, which I think nobody does. The most interesting one of them, well, I think it's called Loop. This one here lets you combine all your photos and videos and create a collage of your vacation. You can use filters, you can use a trimming tool, you can use a musical background and other things like that. There's also a pretty nice optimizer here, the phone manager, which also fights for your security during payments, which is nice to see. And that's pretty much it, as well as the Oppo Relax. It's a relaxation app to get you unwinded after a pretty intense day. Okay, speaking of unwinding, we have reached the end of the review, and just since we're at the end, I think it's time to play a little game and talk to you about the pros and cons of purchasing this device. Okay, so the game is called Bullet Echo, I think. Let's properly see it. Yes, Bullet Echo. And on the pro side, we have here a slim phone, which is quite compact and easy to wield. And it's also got a bright screen of the AMOLED variety. The performance is quite okay. We have a solid battery life, a loudspeaker, nice looking pictures and videos, especially the colors were the one that impressed me, and the nighttime capture. Bokeh video is a nice addition at this price, which you don't see often nowadays, once again, especially for this price range. And I should probably mention that the ultra steady mode comes in handy if you're doing stabilization. There's fast connectivity. I don't have any problems with the OS, to be honest, with the ColorOS. Face unlock is pretty fast. And I just almost died. Okay, so face unlock is rather fast, and those are the pros. Now, on the con side, I would mention that this handset gets some fingerprints on the back side, and at the same time, the CPU doesn't feel exactly very future-proof. So if you're aiming at using it for about 2 or 3 years, you may want to rethink it. We don't have 5G connectivity, which is something that rivals like the Huawei P40 Lite 5G have, and the charging takes long. There's no macro camera in case you're really into that. And the 4K isn't as detailed and as crisp as on the Galaxy A51 and A41. And well, that's about it. Those are the cons. In the end, you're left with a phone that's basically using a niche. It's creating its own niche basically by the fact that it's using a lot of bokeh, and it's using it in the video department, which is something that you cannot do with other phones in the same price range. You'll buy it for the AMOLED screen, for the bokeh video, for the loud acoustics, for the pretty steady video capture, and for the night mode. I feel that a teenager who does a lot of TikTok and Instagram will feel right at home when using this handset. This is my conclusion. It's very clear where it fights. It fights the Xiaomi Mi 10 Lite and the Huawei P40 Lite 5G, but this one has the Play Store, and at the same time it has the bokeh. This is it from us. Bye bye.